kind of world is it where the best education, jobs and the skills are available only to the few? It is a world in which some can succeed. But I ask you, is it a world of which anyone can be proud? That, Mr. Major, is the moral question of our times. I was growing up. The family was strong. The sense of social responsibility was strong. Crime was low. There was a national ethos and spirit that had won us the war and stayed with us in peace. What was strong then is fragile now. National purpose faltering. Our feeling of collective responsibility starved of expression. The family unsupported. It is right to want to get on. It's right to want to do well. But if all we have is what we own, not what we share, we are all the losers for it. Today, I offer you and we offer the country a new vision. If we are to build this new age of achievement, you and I and all of us together must build first the decent society to deliver it. A society in which every individual is valued, every person given the chance to fulfill their potential. A society to which we contribute and which then contributes to us. A society based not on outdated prejudices, but on the common duty of humanity. Our belief that we owe an obligation to each other to improve the lives of us all. A society of opportunity, a society of responsibility, a society which gives to us because we give to that society. History will call it the decent society, a new social order for the new age of achievement in Britain. And these will be its principles. We will respect family life. We will develop it and encourage it in any way that we can, for strong families are the foundation of strong communities. We will provide opportunities for those without. As a first step, we will implement a program to take 250,000 young people off benefit and into work, funded by a one-off windfall levy on the excess profits of the privatized environment, ease congestion, reduce pollution, develop our quality of life, and in the countryside as much as cities and towns. And in return for those opportunities, responsibility. I am proud that New Labour has taken the mantle of the party of law and order in Britain today. I began that process. Jack Straw has carried it on. And I simply say to people who tell us it's wrong to want to crack down on violent crime, drug pushers, antisocial neighbours, hooligans, try living next door to them. You saw in that film a review of the year, the day when John Major and I visited Dunblane together. It was a searing and chilling and dreadful day. The Conservative MPs complain that our response has been emotional. Well, if they had been in that gym, if they had talked to those parents sitting on those tiny chairs where once their children had sat, they would have been emotional too. I believe that we should ban the private ownership and possession of handguns. And we will do more. We will give the disabled the civil rights that the Tories have denied them. Nobody should be excluded from this age of achievement. We will work with the voluntary sector, and tomorrow David Blunkett will announce our plans for a national network of Millennium volunteers. We will provide security in old age, and let me say this to you. Previous Labour governments did their duty by British pensioners, and so will the next Labour government. But one thing I can promise to pensioners and to everyone else, gladly. Gladly. The next Labour government will scrap the Tory internal market of the National Health Service and we will improve it, not just keep it as it is. And of course things will be done in a different way. It's a new world. There's no switching the clock back on anything. New challenges, new ideas. But ours can be and will be a great radical reforming government giving Britain the welfare state it needs in the 21st century. And the great reforms should not stop with the welfare state. Let us modernize government itself so that it serves the interests of the people. Bigger government, better government, so local people decide how to run local services. A Parliament for Scotland, an Assembly for Wales, legislated for in the first year of a Labour government. Achievable precisely because we will have the clear consent of the Scottish and Welsh people before doing it. A directly elected authority for London, our capital city. And more than that, today I can make another announcement on our plans for the National Lottery. It's been a great success, but has all the money gone to good causes? We want... No. Well, I suppose it is the Winter Gardens, isn't it? We want to fund specific environment, education and public health projects through the proceeds of the National Lottery. I want the people's money to go on the people's priorities. Working with the voluntary sector, insulating homes, supporting national talent and potential, reclaiming public space for pedestrians. The Millennium stream of lottery money, 1/5 of the total, should be focused on giving Britain a head start in the 21st century, and under us it will be. And you know, there's more that we can do with government. If Clem Attlee came back today, he'd think pretty much everything was changed, including a few things about this, I suppose. But not the way that we run government or parliament. We spend £300 billion a year in the public sector. But a lot of what government does isn't about helping us achieve, it's actually stopping us achieving. If you're a young person, for example, leaving school, leaving home, looking for a job, you have to contact 11 government offices, not one. Finding care for an elderly relative can take 4 stops, not one. It can take you 2 weeks to get your first income support payment, and then 1 in 7 will be wrong. It takes a month to get your first child benefit check. You know, a small engineering firm in Blackpool spends as much on dealing with inspectors as it would hiring an extra member of staff. And it's getting worse. And the fraud in the system, probably as much as £8 billion a year or more. We will therefore make it a priority to introduce a programme to reform this system of government. Our aim is to coordinate services across government departments, using the advantages of the technology now available to provide a modern and up-to-date service for the customers of the state. Government for the people, not government for government. Should reform Parliament too. One reform we have already achieved. More women members of Parliament than ever before. Another we can, reforming Prime Minister's question time, so that it actually does Parliament credit. Ending the greatest symbol of privilege in any democracy in the world by ensuring that hereditary peers aren't voting in the House of Lords. We will clean up the political funding in Britain. It is surely right, we know, where these types of money come from. And I simply say that it is important that we ensure that everyone recognises their responsibility. In Britain, a leading player in Europe once more, a force for good, promoting democracy and civil rights and free trade between nations, dealing with the debt burden at the heart of any strategy for overseas development, helping fashion the United Nations and the institutions of international cooperation for a new world. It can happen. It can happen. The British people want change. I am sure of that. But they need to trust us. I want them to trust us. Recently, the boss of one of Britain's biggest and most successful companies said to me that companies don't just have prospectuses, he said, they have performance contracts too. A contract that sets out targets and priorities and allows public and company to measure success or failure. And he dared me to publish a performance contract for a new Labour government. Well, today I do that. These are the vows that I make to my country. By the end of the term of a 5-year Labour government, I vow that we will have increased the proportion of our national income we spend on education. I vow that we will have reduced the proportion we spend on the welfare bills of social failure. I vow that we will have reduced the spending on health service bureaucracy and increased it on patient care. I vow that we will have cut the numbers of long-term unemployed and cut by over half the number of young people unemployed. I vow that we will have halved the time it takes young offenders to get to court. I vow that we will keep government borrowing and inflation within the low and prudent targets we set within the economic cycle. I vow that the promises that we make on tax, we will keep. I vow that class sizes will be down in primary schools and standards up in all schools. And I vow that with the consent of the people, we will have devolved power to Scotland, Wales, and the regions of England. I vow that we will have built a new and constructive relationship in Europe. This is my covenant with the British people. Judge me upon it. The buck stops here. For the future, not the past. For the many, not the few. For trust, not betrayal. For the age of achievement, not the age of decline. That is my covenant with the British people. And I can make this promise. I can make it because you have helped me transform our party into a great party of reform for the modern age. 400,000 members and growing. A new constitution that we can actually, leader included, quote in our speeches. A party open and in touch. New Labour, new members. And I'm proud of them. But let me say this to you. I don't forget that this party only survived for new members to join because the old members stuck with it through thick and thin.